Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Booker. Deputy Secretary, I have to add my voice to the chorus here and express how appalled I am at how the department conducted Friday's rifts, unceremoniously firing hundreds of dedicated members of the civil service and the foreign service with only a half-hearted hand wave at the appropriate process. My office has received direct outreach from dozens of those impacted by these rifts, and they have confirmed what we suspected would happen and what members of this committee directly warned the department about. These are public servants who have made countless sacrifices to serve our nation, and the department's actions are short-sighted and frankly sloppy. I would expect better of you. That they will take an already difficult moment and you have made it even more precarious. And I can only scratch the surface in my short time of heartbreaking personal stories that I've heard. These are public servants who are not only concerned about their livelihoods, but the impacts of our national security and our ability to respond to the next crisis. You claim that you went through a thoughtful process to execute these rifts, completely defy reality. To illustrate one example, individuals who were hired under veterans preference were riffed with no acknowledgement of their veteran status in their service summary that you included in their letters. Why should we believe that you went through a thoughtful process if you can't even check this basic box of acknowledging their veteran service? And what about the multiple examples I've heard of individuals who were riffed while on TDY overseas, who are now being put up in five-star hotels at taxpayers' expense while they struggle to get home, cut off from email access?
What's up, patriots? Welcome back to America First, the channel that puts our great nation first in everything we do. If you're tired of the establishment's games and want the truth about what's really happening in Washington, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe right now. We're growing fast because Americans are hungry for real talk, not the mainstream media spin. Today, we're diving into this explosive congressional hearing where a Democrat senator is absolutely losing his mind over President Trump's State Department cleaning house. And folks, what we're witnessing here is exactly why we voted for Trump. To drain the swamp and get rid of the deep state operatives who have been undermining America for decades.
So thank you for the question, Senator. So the RIF procedures were done in partnership with the Office of Personnel Management. We did ask every employee in the weeks and months leading up to it to update their personnel files. And one of the challenges is there isn't a central repository.
You're blaming OPM and the employees that you RIFed?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is
for your the shoddy way that you went about doing this?
The employee file is owned by the employee, so if it does not have all of their past history, if they've worked at multiple departments or agencies and their SF-50s have not been uploaded into their employee file, it's possible that some detail of their service may have been overlooked. So that's why every employee was asked to review their employee file before the reorganization to ensure that every aspect and every step of their service was included in their employee file. But if there are any issues that were overlooked or if anyone feels that their employee file is incomplete, we'll certainly address that immediately.
It sounds like you're blaming the victim here. And the people that I've talked to did update their employee files. How do you reconcile that the Trump administration's own professional development program requires domestic service for FSOs to advance in the senior foreign service? This is something he implemented in 2017, yet you seem to exclusively target FSOs who are on domestic tours. They're on these domestic tours because President Trump in his first term said you need to do a domestic tour. As soon as they're on a domestic tour, you fire them.
So
how do you reconcile that?
Right. So as we noted, the reorganization did focus on the domestic-only operation of the Department of State. It did not focus on our overseas or global footprint. We have about 14,000 foreign service officers. 10,000 of those foreign service officers serve at posts overseas, and we do have about 4,000.
You're not answering my question. How do you reconcile that?
Well, we had to be looking at the RIF. It could not fall entirely on the civil service. We had to be equitable in terms of how we addressed the reductions in force at the department. The vast majority of the reductions did fall on the civil service, but we did have a little over 200 foreign service officers who were impacted by the reduction in force. And like I said, that's regrettable, but when we had to eliminate offices and functions, the people who were encumbering those roles were the people who were RIFed according to the federal government rules and regulations surrounding RIFs.
But they were on domestic tour because President Trump told them they had to do it. So this is ridiculous. Okay. I want to go back to the subject of meeting our obligations. The cuts to EAP's team that managed U.S. engagement in ASEAN while the Secretary was at the ASEAN Ministerial is just a perfect illustration of the shoddy and foolish way that you did this. It's clear that the real winner of this move is going to be the PRC, as you eliminate our expert and capacity to engage in this critical region. Under your proposed reorganization, who will manage the Mekong issue and the Mekong-U.S. partnership?
So all of these functions are going to be handled at the regional bureau level. So that would be the East Asia Pacific Bureau, and then all of the country desks within those bureaus will handle the individual.
They don't have an overseas counterpart office.
I'm sorry, who doesn't have an overseas counterpart?
The
office?
Mekong-U.S. partnership does not have an overseas office.
So anything dealing with a particular region will be handled at the regional bureau.
And where is that?
The regional bureau is located in Washington, D.C., and the
deal with,
the country desks are here, but their counterparts are at every post in every country.
but there's no
overseas.
counterpart overseas. This is the thing. You're firing people doing very important work without regard to these programs on a program that the PRC is really in the wrong on, and we had an opportunity to develop relationships. I'm astonished that you would do this to the State Department and to the national security of this country. I'm over time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me break down what's really happening here. The State Department just conducted what they call reductions in force, essentially firing hundreds of bureaucrats from the civil service and foreign service. Now, this senator is crying about it, calling it appalling and slopty. But here's what he's not telling you. These aren't just innocent public servants. These are the same people who spent 4 years trying to sabotage Trump's America First agenda. The senator keeps talking about how these were dedicated members who made countless sacrifices. Give me a break. These are the same career bureaucrats who leaked classified information, slow-walked Trump's policies, and worked overtime to implement the globalist agenda that sold out American workers and weakened our sovereignty. They weren't serving America. They were serving the establishment. Now let's address this veteran preference issue the senator brought up. He's acting like the Trump administration deliberately ignored veterans in this process. But the deputy secretary clearly explained that employees were asked multiple times to update their personnel files. If someone's veteran status wasn't properly documented, that's on the individual and the broken bureaucratic system, not on Trump's team trying to clean house efficiently. Here's what the mainstream media won't tell you about these overseas personnel staying in hotels. The senator makes it sound like some kind of scandal, but these people were already overseas on taxpayer-funded assignments. The fact that it's taking time to transition them back shows the administration is being responsible about the process, not reckless like the Democrats claim. The most revealing part of this hearing is when the senator starts crying about foreign service officers on domestic tours being let go. He claims it's hypocritical because Trump's first term required these domestic assignments. But here's the real story. Trump required those domestic tours to bring accountability to the Foreign Service, to make sure these diplomats understood American interests instead of going native in foreign capitals. Now that we've identified who's actually loyal to America versus who's loyal to the globalist agenda, it makes perfect sense to keep the patriots overseas where they can advance American interests and bring home the swamp creatures who've been working against us. Let me tell you what's really behind the senator's outrage about the East Asia Pacific team cuts. He's worried about our engagement with ASEAN and claims this benefits China. But here's the truth. For decades, our State Department approach to China and the region has been an absolute disaster. They've been playing nice while China built artificial islands, stole our intellectual property, and expanded their influence. Maybe it's time for a completely new approach instead of keeping the same failed experts who got us into this mess. The senator mentions the Mekong Partnership, like it's some crucial program. But ask yourself this. After decades of these partnerships and engagement programs, has China's influence in the region decreased? Have we won back the manufacturing jobs they stole? Have they stopped their military buildup in the South China Sea? The answer is no, because our foreign policy establishment has been focused on managing decline instead of fighting for American dominance. What we're seeing in this hearing is the establishment having a meltdown because Trump is actually keeping his promises. He said he would drain the swamp, and that's exactly what's happening. These bureaucrats have been comfortable for too long, knowing they could outlast any elected president and continue pushing their globalist agenda regardless of what the American people voted for. The deputy secretary handled this perfectly by explaining that the cuts were done according to federal regulations and in partnership with the Office of Personnel Management. This wasn't some arbitrary purge. This was a systematic reorganization to align the State Department with America First principles. Here's what every patriot needs to understand. The deep state isn't just some conspiracy theory. It's real, and it's made up of exactly these kinds of career bureaucrats who think they know better than the American people. They've been undermining conservative presidents for decades while protecting liberal ones. Trump's willingness to actually fire these people is unprecedented, and that's why they're panicking. The senator keeps talking about national security concerns, but the real national security threat has been having a State Department full of people who don't believe in American exceptionalism. These are the same people who apologize for America around the world, who negotiated terrible trade deals, and who stood by while our allies took advantage of us and our enemies grew stronger. This reorganization isn't about being cruel or sloppy. It's about efficiency and loyalty. Every dollar we spend on bureaucrats who work against American interests is a dollar stolen from programs that actually benefit Americans. Every position filled by someone who doesn't believe in America first is a position that should go to a patriot who will advance our interests. The bottom line is this: elections have consequences. The American people voted for Trump because they were tired of a foreign policy establishment that put everyone else's interests ahead of ours. Now we're seeing what real change looks like. And predictably, the swamp is fighting back through their allies in Congress and the media. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking this is about competence or process. This is about power, and Trump is taking away from people who have abused it for decades. That's exactly what we elected him to do, and he's delivering on his promises despite unprecedented resistance from the establishment. Patriots, this is why your voice matters. This is why we need to keep supporting leaders who will actually fight for America instead of managing our decline. Make sure you're subscribed to stay informed about what's really happening behind the scenes in Washington. Share this video with everyone you know who's tired of the establishment's lies. The swamp is fighting back hard, but we knew this would happen. Stay strong, stay informed, and remember, America First isn't just a slogan. It's a promise that Trump is keeping every single day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exposing the truth they don't want you to hear.